Hi, this is Ravi from the Nifty BN channel. First of all, a happy Ramadan to all the Muslim community. In this video, we would be looking at a variation to the traditional butterfly option strategy, known as the Christmas tree butterfly. While the traditional butterfly spread is a neutral strategy, the Christmas tree butterfly spread has a directional bias. It is usually placed slightly above for the call variety or below for the put variety at the money. It comprises three legs and involves six options and is usually established at a net debit. The Christmas tree butterfly with calls has a slight bullish bias and is placed above the underlying asset's price. Conversely, the Christmas tree butterfly spread with puts has a slight bearish bias and is placed below the underlying asset's price. In this video, we would limit ourselves to the call variety. A Christmas tree butterfly spread with calls is the purchase of one call at strike price x1, skip strike price x2, the sale of three calls at strike price x3, and the purchase of two calls at strike price x4. It can be seen as simultaneously purchasing one wide bull call spread with strike prices x1 and x3 and selling two narrow bear call spreads with strike prices x3 and x4. All the strike prices are equidistant, and the distance between the strike prices x1 and x3 is twice the distance between the strike prices x3 and x4. And all calls have the same expiration date. Time decay is helpful to the position while volatility is generally unhelpful. The maximum profit is attained if the underlying is at the strike price x3, that is, at the strike price of the short calls, at expiration. It is the difference between the strike prices x1 and x3 less the net debit. The maximum loss is the net debit of the bought and sold options. There are two break-even points at expiration for this strategy. Lower break-even point is between strike prices x1 and x2 and is equal to the strike price x1 plus the net debit. Upper break-even point is between strike prices x3 and x4 and is equal to strike price x4 minus 1 half the net debit. Now let's look at a sample trade. Nifty is at 9039.25 on May 22nd, 2020. A Christmas tree butterfly spread can then be entered as follows. Buy 1 25th June 9100 strike price call at 282.25. Sell 3 25th June 9300 strike price calls at 193. Buy 2 25th June 9400 strike price calls at 156.69. Let's look at some calculations. Maximum loss at expiry is equal to net debit, which comes to about 1247.25. Maximum profit at expiry is equal to difference between the strike prices x1 and x3 minus net debit, which comes to about rupees 13,752.75. Lower break-even point is equal to x1 plus net debit, which comes to about 9,117. Upper break-even point is equal to x4 minus net debit by 2, which comes to about 93.92. Now let's look at the risk graph. From the risk graph, it is clear that though the risk reward ratio is pretty high, the high reward comes with a narrow range. The maximum profit of rupees 13,752.75 is attained at the strike price of the sold calls, that is at 9300 at expiration. The break-even points are at 9117 and 9392, and the maximum loss of rupees 1247.25 is attained when the underlying closes below the lower break-even point or above the upper break-even point at expiration. Now it's time to look at some advantages and disadvantages of the Christmas tree butterfly with calls option strategy. The initial cost to establish the strategy is low, and hence the maximum loss at expiry is also low. It offers a good alternative to a long call, but requires more margin money, and also you may have to pay more commissions, as the number of options involved are more. Though the maximum profit potential for the strategy is high, the probability of profit is low and is attained only near expiration. The probability of profit is less than 20%. It has a narrow profit range. Considerations. Although in the sample trade, the difference in the strike prices X1 and X3 is 200, the trade can also be established with a difference in strike prices of 400, 600, 800 and so on between X1 and X3. And since the distance between the strike price X1 and X3 has to be twice the distance between the strike price X3 and X4, X4 should be at a distance of 200, 300, 400 and so on from X3 respectively. Enter the trade when you have a bullish bias and you believe that the price would rise and hover around the strike price X3 by expiration. Some might argue here that it is better to go with a long call when you have a bullish bias. But what if you are wrong in your forecast? You would lose the entire amount invested on the long call. Whereas here, the amount at risk is less. This is also an excellent strategy for the earnings announcement. I would be making a separate video on how it can be used for the earnings announcement in the near future. Thank you for watching. Please post any questions you have in the comment section. Also, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.